We begin with a birth this episode, the birth of Dog. And just to show how evil scientists are, one is instantly incinerated for being underweight. And who are these scientists? Well, we pan up to a man in glasses who looks an awful lot like Enclave guy that Maximus and Ghoul are after. Therefore, this must be the evil Enclave. The next few scenes involve the dogs that were going through behavioural engineering, presumably to breed better guard dogs. Enclave guy goes to cross a checkpoint, and we see a body being moved beyond it with a suspiciously large green hand. One finger moves, suggesting that whatever is under there might still be alive. However, Chekhov's gun is mostly firing blanks with this one. We get dogs going through training with radio collars on. Why the collars? Don't know. Chekhov's gun is still firing blanks at this point. The next few scenes involve Enclave guy training Dog to be his own personal guard dog and keeping it a secret, interspersed with him working on some sort of other experiment. All we know is that it's small and it periodically glows. Enclave guy must have an escape plan in motion by this point, as he injects this experiment into his brain. Now, it must be in his brain, going by the angle of the needle and the sheer length of it. However, a couple of scenes later, it appears to only just be past the skin due to how bright it's shining. Nameless scientist walks in and, clearly confused as to what's going on, goes to flip a local alarm switch and pushes Enclave guy down. Dog isn't having any of this and kills Nameless scientists, which obviously means that Enclave guy has to bolt. We get an incident response alert, but even though the alarm was set off in a specific room, the guards don't seem to try and stop Enclave guy from leaving that section and just walking right past them. A joke rises into view. Please laugh at the joke. Joke is awful at his job and cannot hit Enclave guy as he shuffles past it. Presumably this is so the rest of the story can happen. Cut to Lucy, having just left Vault 33 in the last episode and making her way across the Los Angeles beachfront and not knowing what way to go to find Hank and Lee Moldava. She seems mildly fascinated by the outside world, as I imagine anyone who grew up in an underground vault would be. We have no idea how long she is working for, as the lighting does not seem to change, but the scenery does quite dramatically. We go from rubble by a rocky shore, to a few ruins, to a tanker skeleton which has huge stretches of desert in almost every direction, and into another set of ruins. Now, it could be that these new ruins are the same as the previous ruins, just from a different angle. If so, does that not have anything to do with the tanker? Because that is nowhere in sight, and raises the question of why she saw them earlier and then went to the tanker. Poor editing, or just a different set of ruins? Again, don't know. Here we get another joke. Lucy does not know what a tumbleweed is and thinks it might be hostile. Hey look, over there, there's a reference. Lucy is curious and goes inside one of these old sand-filled houses, and we get 200-year-old, untouched, unstained and neatly-ish stacked assorted shelfware. And 4 long-dead bodies. On the table there is an empty bottle of Vault-Tec Plan D, helpfully also labelled as a poison. Why is there a bottle of Vault-Tec brand poison on a dining table? Presumably because the family took it, but that also raises into question of why there is a Vault-Tec brand human poison that was presumably available on the open market. The bottle is both empty and quite large, meaning it must have had quite a lot in it. Obviously this freaks out Lucy, seeing Vault-Tec bottles on a dining table, and so she leaves sharpish. Sometime later it is sunset, and she has left the massive desert of the shoreline and is going through basic survival steps to set up a fire to sleep next to. She is, however, awakened by Dog and Enclave Guy, which is quite the coincidence that they happen to be walking close enough nearby to see the fire, and then decided to go over there. Enclave Guy explains that roaches are bigger and more dangerous than they used to be, while Dog eats one. He then tells her that she should not have lit a fire after dark. When Lucy asks if he has seen Hank or Lee Moldava, Enclave Guy gets cryptic and tells her to go home as she is not suited to survival on the surface. When she refuses, he says more cryptic things about the world changing her and what she wants, and then leaves. This tells us that Enclave Guy only went over to the fire and waited there for Lucy to wake up, just to be cryptic. Cut to Maximus and Titus in their vertibird. There is a rubber ducky joke. Please laugh. Maximus tries to make small talk and knows what tempered lining or power armor is, despite in the previous episode not knowing the difference between a circuit and a rotor. Titus pulls off his crotch plate and orders it to be cleaned. This is probably a joke, and it also tells us that he's a dick. Immediately after, he states he's bored and wants to go shoot something, so he has the vertibird set them down. Maximus states their objective is to search a town called Philly, and that they are many miles away, but Titus doesn't care as he is bored and a dick. The vertibird leaves because they are not needed for the rest of the scene, or potentially because they are also dicks. We cut back to Enclave Guy walking through an overgrown area, taking a break to eat. Dog runs off and brings back some meat for him. It just happens to be a hand. It's at this point that Enclave Guy suddenly notices the various bones on the ground, showing us that he's not very observant. Or it might be another joke, I'm not really sure. Back to Maximus and Titus again as they move through an overgrown area, presumably not having found anything to shoot yet, and they stumble upon the very site we just saw Enclave Guy at. How very convenient. Somehow Maximus knows that the lab coat and the tin of cram belong to Enclave Guy. They spot the bones, the cave, and conclude Enclave Guy must be dead inside, so Titus sends Maximus in, because once again, he's a dick. Bear teleports behind Titus. Bear is able to bite an assault rifle in half, hard enough to make it explode, as well as take powered punches to the ribs and keep going. In the face of such a mighty foe, Titus legs it. Bear catches up, unsurprisingly, and Bear wins. Maximus stands and watches Titus getting savaged, probably because he's going over Titus being a dick in his head, before putting the bear down with one shot. Turns out, Bear's skull was much weaker than any other part of its body. Titus quite rightly berates Maximus for being slow. It is here, however, that Titus turns into the character that I like the most from this show. Yes, he is still a dick, but he says that the clerics don't know what technology they are collecting, only that it's technology from before the war, cementing the notion that they are just a bunch of Warhammer 40,000 tech priests. All hail the Omnissiah. Praise be to the machine god. He is clearly fed up with those in charge, but sticks with them, presumably because it has more benefits than not. He blames Maximus for not helping him sooner, and explains that the Brotherhood will string up squires by their lungs if they fail their knights. No wonder there were so many recruits in episode 1, as soon as one fails, they are disposed of. Maximus calls Titus unworthy and watches him die. Thus passes Titus, a man who knew the Brotherhood was infected with idiots. Back to Lucy, once again trekking through the desert. She finds a man trying to get a water filter to work, but can't because he's an idiot and he's trying to get water from sand. Is this another joke? Again, I can't tell. In a startling coincidence, however, he is the one person she has met who points her towards the nearest town, Philly. but he says it's dangerous over there, so he stays at home, shoveling sand into a water filter to try and make water. And that's the end of that entire scene. Back to Maximus again, and he has stolen Titus's clothes, as well as the power armor, and goes on something of a power trip. It is here that we actually see the power of one of these suits, with Maximus able to throw a chunk of masonry clear from where he's standing into the ocean, as well as kick a brick straight through a wall, which raises the question, with all that power, how did Titus lose his fight against a bear? Were its ribs harder than brick, and it just happened to have a weak skull? Anyway, never mind that, because literally round the other side of the house where he was making all that noise are two people having an argument who did not notice or hear him, which is starting to become something of a theme in this show. So, like the hero he feels himself to be, Maximus intervenes, with the suited man thanking him and retreating, only to be told that the suited man was trying to have sex with chickens. This is a joke. Please laugh. Back to Lucy as she moves through an overgrown area, which we now know is near to Philly. She gets rudely snubbed by a couple in an old car park and moves into a bustling marketplace with all sorts of goods for sale and a population right out of Mad Max. Unable to find help, she moves through the giant trash heap and into the inner town. The camera lingers on a gloved hand. Whoa, mysterious. Philly appears to be mostly lawless, with guys beating up other guys, but we find a shop selling Vault-Tec items, which Lucy duly investigates as this is her only lead. The shop is owned by one Ma June, and as Lucy goes inside, we linger once more on the it's the Ghoul. Why is he here? I don't know. All we know is that Enclave Guy is trying to get to Moldova, and the only reason I can think of as to why he's here is because it is the only settlement in California. Lucy decides that due to having a lot of vaulting items for sale, Ma June trades with criminals, much like those who attacked Vault 33. She says that she thought they were all dead, but soon as Moldova is mentioned, she tells Lucy to leave. She also says, "Everybody knows who Moldova is." Ma June states that the vaults were just places for the rich to hide in while everyone else got nuked, and makes it plain that nobody likes the vaults, and presumably the vault dwellers. It is at this point that Enclave Guy shows up. Why is he so late? Presumably he knew where he needed to get to the night while he was at Lucy's campfire, and he was already long gone from the bear cave when Maximus and Titus showed up. He would not have had to amble aimlessly around and ask for directions, but that is the situation we have been given. Dog is let inside Ma June's shop, where there is a bowl of fresh meat on the floor. Given that Enclave Guy knew there was a bowl of meat for Dog, he must have been there before, as he is not standing with a view of it inside the shop. Once again, Enclave Guy is cryptic with Lucy for the sake of being cryptic. He recognises the vault she is from and shows that he knows their crops, technology and the level of civility, also telling us he is quite probably knowledgeable about at least 31 and 32 as well. Ma June emerges and asks if Enclave Guy is Wilzig, which he confirms. This tells us that this is his first time in Philly, which doubly raises the question of why he let Dog go into a shop to eat food that he could not have possibly known was there. The Ghoul from across the street heard the name of Wilzig and decides now is the time to start being a threatening arsehole. Most of the citizens either scatter or take cover, because this is a spaghetti western now, despite them all being fine for an indeterminate amount of time with him just sitting in a chair and staring at Ma June's shop. This is reinforced when Ma June tells him that his kind are not welcome. He states that the previous night a bounty came in from all 6 agencies for Wilzig. This now gives us a time frame of events which I will go over later. Ghoul says there is a bidding war, so Wilzig must be super valuable, but Marjun says that she's been paid to provide safe escort for Wilzig, so Ghoul shoots Wilzig's foot off. Marjun screams that she has 1,000 bottle caps for killing the Ghoul, and thus a gunfight with the whole town ensues. Lucy darts inside as the Ghoul lets loose 6 rounds from a gun which we later see only holds 4. That is, however, standard Hollywood fare, so I will let it slide. Switching from his hand cannon to his repeater, Ghoul taunts everyone and eats some tomatoes, despite not needing to eat, as established in episode 1. A second later, and there is the sound of his hand cannon being shot again, despite holding the repeater. Ghoul gets shot in the back no less than 3 times, but does not care. Combined with comments made about what Don Pedro does to him, this suggests that he has some insane healing capability as he just walks it off. He makes a joke about a guy not being able to eat due to having a hole in his neck. Please laugh. That's another joke. Ghoul reloads his repeater. In the meantime, Lucy has started to go through Marjun's ledger and finds transactions with Lee Moldava. Back outside, and Ghoul, after reloading the repeater, uses his hand cannon to kill more guys, and has written "boom" on a shell. Please laugh again. With Ma being the only one left, he shoots her in the leg. It is at this point, having not been on the set for shooting presumably, that dog phases back into existence and attacks Ghoul. Ghoul has a knife, and you can imagine how well that goes. Lucy, having been reminded what she thinks Vault-Tec's mission is, goes to intervene and fight the Ghoul with her needler. It goes about as well as the rest of the town fighting him, but it is at this point that Iron Man, Maximus, arrives. He introduces himself as Knight Titus, and when the Ghoul refuses the shot, he dives in the way and saves Lucy. They then proceed to have some small talk while the Ghoul unloads quite a few rounds into Maximus's back to no effect. Back to the action, however, Maximus tries to fight back, but has his gun, which is not one we have seen used previously in the episode, shot out of his hand. So he resorts to punches from a suit which can throw bricks for a very long distance. Ghoul's ribcage proves to be as dense as that of the bear, as the stairs break before he does. While all this is going on, Lucy and Marjun pull Wilzig into the shop and give him a new foot. I will spare you the scene, but suffice to say that the replacement foot does more harm than good. Again, I don't know if this is a joke or not. Still, Marjun gives Lucy the job of getting Wilzig to Lee Moldava. Ghoul has plot armour, as while Lucy and Wilzig make a break for it, Maximus's leg gets stuck in some wooden floorboards. This is a leg that we earlier saw kick a brick hard enough through a wall to smash it. Ghoul takes this chance to sabotage the suit, and after some theatrics, uses rope skills to latch onto Maximus and make him blast off like Team Rocket. Back with Lucy and Wilzig, they are escaping as quickly as they can and pass Mr. Chicken, previously known as Mr. Suit, on the way out, who has set up a small stand to sell tinctures and remedies. He said he has something to fix exploded feet, and we're supposed to take this as a joke, Mr. Chicken trying to make a quick cap. Maximus crashes next to a guy using the toilet. The guy using the toilet does not care. This is another joke. Please laugh again. Back in Marjun's shop, Marjun and her partner have both left. He, however, does not look at the ledger to find out where to go, and instead, with no idea of which way Wilzig has gone, Stimpak's dog, who instantly becomes his friend, because that is how dogs apparently work. The sun goes down, and life in Philly returns to normal. Presumably the next day, or before the previous scene, as it's quite hard to tell how space-time works in this show, Lucy and Wilzig are walking across another desert and towards a ruined city. Passing by a crashed Soviet satellite, Wilzig refuses to go on, and given what Ma June did to his leg, it's hardly surprising. Lucy tries to give him a pep talk, but he clarifies he has taken Vault-Tec Plan D, which we now learn are cyanide pills. Remember them from earlier in the episode with the family that had the massive bottle on their dining room table? Apparently, they were the most humane product that Vault-Tec ever made. Regardless of this, he leaves Lucy with instruction to cut off his head and take it to Moldava, and being the cryptic git that he is, he drops that he knows her name before shuffling off his mortal coil. After much deliberation, and who can blame her at this point, Lucy does as asked, and we cut to credits. Well, episode 2. I feel this is where some of the writing is starting to fall apart. Could be down to editing, as it feels like certain bits would have been better shuffled around. I'd probably give it 5, so average. Now, on to the more important bits, Moldava's plan and the bounties. Thus far, Moldava's plan is, with the information we have been provided, to have Wilzig transported to her, presumably because of the glowing thing he stuck in his own neck, and at the same time decided to break into Vault 32 several days before her raid and kidnapping of Hank McClane took place. This was so that she could be ready for the triannual trade and communicate back and forth to arrange what was being traded. Then, with a large number of the Vault dwellers dead, and fortunate that Hank was not one of them, she left and blew up the door. We do not know more than that at this point, but we will do later on. When it comes to the bounties, they were put up the night prior to the Philly shootout. Given that it is highly unlikely that Moldava would have let it slip that she was after Wilzig, that means the bounty was put out by other agencies, all who seemingly hate Moldava, and the information was picked up and sent by courier to Boston, where the Brotherhood clerics decided to pursue it because they know that he's from the Enclave, fly the Pridwin to California and spend a day getting new squires, then set off to find him. At the same time, the night prior, the Ghoul is dug up, takes the bounty and walks to Philly. This also means that the bounty has not been out at the point where Lucy wakes up to find Wilzig at her fire. So, the timeline of events we have so far is Child Maximus scenes, Wilzig escaping the Enclave communicated to the Brotherhood in Boston, Brotherhood travel to the aspirant camp via airship, Moldava enters Vault 32, Moldava attacks Vault 33, Wilzig escapes the Enclave, Lucy leaves Vault 33, the bounty is posted, Lucy meets Wilzig, Ghoul is dug up, Brotherhood starts their search, Wilzig and Dog arrive at the Bear Cave, death of Titus, Ghoul arrives in Philly, Lucy arrives in Philly, Wilzig arrives in Philly, Maximus arrives in Philly, gunfight, Lucy and Wilzig flee Philly. One final note on the end credits. It appears to be panning out of the Boston Brotherhood airport, notably seeing a discarded power armor helmet and a recruitment poster. Going back to Fallout knowledge of the West Coast, the Brotherhood there never had an airport and are only shown owning bunkers. The only airport they are shown to have is in Boston, which leads me to believe that the entire remaining Brotherhood from west to east coasts is on the Pridwin or at the Aspirant camp, not counting the Midwest and Vault Zero and potentially Texas as well. Well, there you go. That was episode 2. I'll be back as soon as I can with episode 3. Thank you.